When a woman walks into a room, the first thing most men notice is not her clothes, her makeup, or the way her hair falls. What strikes them is something deeper, something that radiates before a single word is spoken, the way she carries herself. This is not about being tall or short, wearing heels or sneakers, or having a runway model's posture. It's about presence. Men notice presence, even when women think they're blending into the background. It's the way you move through space, the confidence or insecurity that fills the air around you, and the quiet statement you make without saying a word. Presence is powerful because it communicates identity. A woman who walks into a room with her shoulders back, head lifted, and eyes open to the world tells everyone she knows her worth. She's not waiting for permission to take up space. Men notice that. They notice when someone enters with assurance rather than apology. They notice when someone carries themselves as though they belong there. Not in an arrogant way, but in a grounded, certain way that makes others feel the gravity of who they are. On the other hand, when someone carries themselves small, apologetic, or hidden, men pick up on that too. It's not judgment so much as recognition. They can sense whether someone is shrinking from the world or stepping fully into it. And here's the key. This impression often outweighs surface level things like beauty standards or outfits. Confidence makes ordinary extraordinary, while insecurity can dim even the brightest appearance. Think about the last time you met someone who wasn't the loudest in the room, but you couldn't take your eyes off them. Maybe it wasn't what they wore, but the way they stood. Maybe it wasn't what they said, but the calm, deliberate way they listened before speaking. That magnetism comes from presence. Men notice it instinctively because it reflects something rare, self-acceptance. What's fascinating is that presence isn't faked. You can't layer it on like makeup. Men notice when confidence is authentic versus when it's performed. A woman trying too hard to project control, overcompensating, exaggerating, putting on a show, comes across differently from one who simply rests in who she is. The latter doesn't need constant validation because she carries quiet assurance. That's what lingers in a man's memory long after the moment has passed. Presence shows up in subtle details, the way you make eye contact instead of avoiding it, the way you walk with steady steps rather than rushing to disappear, the way you stand in line with patience instead of nervous fidgeting. Men notice when you carry your body like a burden, and they notice when you carry it like it's your home. It's not about perfection, it's about permission, giving yourself permission to exist boldly and unapologetically. For many women, this feels uncomfortable because the world has conditioned them to downplay, to be quieter, to soften themselves so others feel comfortable. But men worth noticing, the men who look beyond surface, are drawn to the opposite. They notice when a woman allows herself to shine without apology. They notice when she speaks her mind without shrinking, when she sits at the table as though she deserves to be there, when she laughs without checking who's watching. Here's the irony. Women often stress about details men barely notice. The brand of the dress, the shade of lipstick, the perfect angle of eyeliner. Meanwhile, men are noticing posture, poise, and presence. They're noticing the energy you bring, whether you look approachable or defensive, whether you radiate calm or tension. And more than anything, they're noticing how you make them feel when you walk into a room. Do they feel at ease because you're at ease? Do they feel inspired because you carry yourself with purpose? Do they feel unsettled because you're carrying insecurity that spills into the space? The beauty of this is that presence is not about being flawless. It's about being real. Men notice when you embrace yourself as you are. They notice when you wear your quirks without shame. They notice when you don't over-explain or over-apologize for existing. Confidence is not arrogance. It's kindness toward yourself. And men can feel that difference. A woman could be wearing the simplest clothes, with no makeup and messy hair, but if she walks in with calm assurance, she will be noticed more than someone perfectly polished but visibly insecure. Presence has weight. It commands attention without demanding it. And once it's noticed, it's hard to forget. So when women ask, what do men really notice? The answer begins here. They notice how you carry yourself. They notice whether you shrink or shine. They notice whether your presence says, I know my worth, or whether it asks, do I measure up? And the most powerful part is that this is something every woman can choose to cultivate, not by chasing external perfection, but by practicing internal acceptance. The smartest men don't just see the outside. They see the way you hold yourself together, even in silence. They see whether you occupy space with fear or with grace. And while women may believe those little insecurities go unnoticed, the truth is men pick up on them instantly. But more importantly, they pick up on strength. And the strength that comes from carrying yourself with quiet confidence is one of the most magnetic things a woman can ever display. What men really notice about a woman goes far deeper than appearances, and one of the strongest impressions comes from how she treats others. It's easy to show kindness when the spotlight is on you, when you're around people you want to impress, or when life is comfortable. But what men notice most, and remember long after, is how you treat people when you don't have to. It's in those small, everyday moments that your true character quietly reveals itself. Think about being out at a restaurant. The way you speak to a waiter, whether you show patience when they're busy or empathy when they make a mistake, speaks volumes. A man sees that, and it leaves an imprint. Because how you treat someone who cannot benefit you in return says far more about who you are than how you treat someone you're trying to impress. The world is full of people who can turn on charm in the right setting, but it's in the unnoticed interactions where integrity shows itself. Men notice the tone you use when you talk about others, especially when those people aren't in the room. Do you uplift or do you criticize? Do you choose compassion or do you reach for gossip? Words are windows into the heart, and men who are paying attention can sense what lies beneath. A woman who can celebrate the success of others without jealousy, who can extend grace even to people who frustrate her, leaves a lasting impression. That's the kind of energy that feels safe to be around. They also notice consistency. Are you respectful only when people are watching, or is it woven into your character? Men notice if your kindness is genuine or conditional. They pick up on whether you treat everyone with the same level of dignity, whether it's the CEO or the janitor, the best friend or the stranger. That consistency is powerful because it shows you don't bend your values to suit convenience. Another thing men notice is patience. Life brings inconveniences, delays, frustrations that test us all. Men notice how you react in those moments. Do you lose your temper easily? Do you belittle others when you feel inconvenienced? Or do you show restraint, understanding, and empathy? Patience is one of the most underrated traits, but it reveals emotional strength. A woman who can stay composed under stress communicates that she's not ruled by every irritation, and that steadiness is magnetic. Men also notice generosity, not just financial generosity, but the generosity of spirit. Do you offer encouragement? Do you give your time? Do you show up for people without expecting something in return? Generosity doesn't need grand gestures. It can be as simple as remembering someone's name, offering a kind word, or being present in a conversation. These things are often invisible to the person doing them, but men notice. They notice because it signals depth. And here's the truth: men are not only observing how you treat strangers, they're also paying close attention to how you treat the people closest to you. Family, friends, coworkers. Do you respect them? Do you honor their boundaries? Do you speak to them with the same kindness you show the outside world? Men notice if your tone changes behind closed doors, if your patience disappears when comfort replaces courtesy. Those inconsistencies reveal a lot. But perhaps the most important thing men notice is how you treat yourself. That might sound strange, but it's true. Men pay attention to whether you talk down about yourself, whether you belittle your own worth, whether you apologize constantly for existing. How you treat yourself sets the standard for how others treat you. If you handle yourself with respect, care, and patience, men notice that you value yourself, and it inspires them to value you as well. If you're harsh with yourself, they see that too. This is why small gestures carry such weight. Holding the door for someone, thanking the cashier, checking in on a friend. These are not trivial acts, they're snapshots of character. Men who are paying attention don't just look at how you treat them directly, they look at how you treat the world around you. Because that's the real picture of who you are. And the truth is, these things are unforgettable. A man may forget what outfit you wore or how your hair looked on a certain day, but he won't forget the moment he saw you speak kindly to someone who wasn't being kind back. He won't forget the way you extended patience when most would have snapped. He won't forget the way your words brought comfort rather than criticism. Those moments leave a mark because they reveal substance. So while the world tells women to polish the outside, men who are truly paying attention are watching something else entirely. They're noticing character, consistency, and kindness. They're noticing the way you treat people not because you have to, but because that's who you are. And that matters far more than anything surface level ever could. When a man reflects on what drew him to someone, he may not always articulate it in these terms, but deep down he knows it wasn't just the smile or the laughter or the way she looked. It was the way she treated others. Because that's not something that fades. That's not something that time or age or fashion can take away. That's the kind of impression that endures. One of the most surprising things men notice about women, and often the thing women least expect, is their laugh. Not the polite, rehearsed laugh, not the one that sounds like it's meant to fill silence or smooth over tension, but the real, unguarded laugh that bursts out when something genuinely amuses you. Men notice authenticity in laughter more than they notice perfect smiles or perfectly chosen words. It's because laughter reveals what nothing else can: the unfiltered joy, the raw honesty, and the comfort you have with yourself in that moment. When a woman laughs freely, it communicates more than humor. It communicates presence. It shows she's engaged, she's open, she's not worried about how she looks for a split second. That authenticity draws men in because it feels rare in a world where so much is curated, filtered, and rehearsed. A genuine laugh doesn't try to impress, it simply is. And that's why it lingers in a man's memory. Men notice the difference between laughter that's forced and laughter that's real. Forced laughter is sharp, short, and often mismatched to the situation. It feels more like a performance than a reaction. Real laughter, on the other hand, carries warmth. It's contagious. It has a rhythm and melody all its own. Sometimes it's loud, sometimes it's soft, sometimes it even feels a little embarrassing because it escapes before you can contain it. But that's exactly why men notice it. It's human, it's imperfect, and it's beautiful in its imperfection. Laughter also reveals compatibility. Men pay attention to what makes you laugh because it tells them a lot about your perspective on life. Do you laugh at clever wit, or do you find joy in silly, everyday moments? Do you laugh at yourself when you make a mistake, or do you take everything so seriously that humor rarely breaks through? A laugh can signal resilience. It shows that you can find light even in the darker corners of life. Men notice that, and they respect it. There's also a confidence in unfiltered laughter. It says, "I'm not here to play a part, I'm here to be real." Men notice when you let yourself go in that way, when you don't stifle joy to appear more composed or controlled. That kind of confidence is magnetic. It signals that you're not seeking approval. You're living in the moment, and the truth is, men find that far more attractive than any attempt to appear perfect. Sometimes women underestimate the power of their laughter because they're so self-conscious about it. Maybe you think your laugh is too loud, too goofy, too awkward, but men don't see it that way. In fact, what you call flaws are often the exact things they remember most. The quirky, unmistakable sound of your laugh becomes something unique, something tied only to you. It's the sound that can cut through tension, that can fill a room with life, that can make ordinary moments unforgettable. Men also notice the way laughter connects people. Shared laughter creates intimacy. It lowers defenses and builds trust without a single heavy conversation. A woman who can laugh with someone is a woman who feels safe enough to be real, and men notice that safety. They notice when your laughter comes from a place of comfort, when you feel free to show joy in their presence. It reassures them that they're seeing the real you. And there's something deeper. Laughter shows values. Men notice whether your laughter is at the expense of others or whether it's rooted in kindness. Do you laugh in a way that uplifts or in a way that tears down? Men pay attention to that. A laugh that comes from cruelty may be loud, but it leaves a cold impression. A laugh that comes from lightheartedness, from connection, from simple joy, those are the ones men remember with warmth. Think about it this way: beauty might catch a man's eye, but laughter captures his spirit. It makes moments feel alive. It creates memories that last far beyond appearances. Years later, a man might not remember the exact outfit you wore, but he will remember the sound of your laugh echoing in his memory because it tied directly to how he felt in your presence. Even silence is shaped by laughter. Men notice how you recover after laughing. Do you let it linger with a smile, eyes bright, energy lifted? That afterglow of joy is as noticeable as the laughter itself. It softens you, makes you approachable, and shows that joy is a natural part of your being. Laughter is one of the purest expressions of authenticity, and authenticity is magnetic. Men notice it because it cannot be faked. You can dress differently, you can adjust your words, but you cannot manufacture genuine joy. It shines through you and makes you unforgettable. And the irony is, while women often worry about the little things men are supposedly focused on, the truth is men are remembering the sound of a laugh, the sparkle in your eyes when it happens, and the warmth it leaves behind. So while you may not realize it, men notice your laugh more than you think. They notice when it's real, they notice what sparks it, and they notice how it makes them feel. And long after the conversation ends, that one sound, honest and filtered joy, stays with them as the clearest reflection of who you really are. What men notice about women goes far beyond the surface, and one of the most magnetic qualities is passion. Passion isn't just about romance. It's about the way your eyes light up when you talk about something that matters deeply to you. It could be your career, a hobby, a cause, or even something as simple as your favorite book or recipe. Men notice when you care about something with energy and enthusiasm because passion reveals life. It shows drive, authenticity, and a sense of purpose that can't be faked. When a woman speaks about something she loves, her tone changes. Her voice gets brighter, her words flow faster, and her body comes alive in subtle ways. That energy is contagious. Men pay attention to it because it's rare to see someone so connected to themselves. In a world where many people go through the motions, someone who carries passion is like a flame in the dark. It draws people in. Passion reveals depth. Men notice when you're not just existing, but actually invested in life. They see that you have something that matters to you beyond appearances, beyond attention, beyond the surface. That's attractive because it shows independence. You're not waiting for someone else to create your happiness. You've already found things that fill you with joy. Men respect that because it signals strength and self-sufficiency. It tells them that your identity isn't defined by them, but by your own choices and pursuits. Another reason men notice passion is that it creates vulnerability in the best way. When you talk about something you love, you're sharing a piece of yourself. You're letting someone see what excites you, what moves you, what drives you forward. That honesty is powerful. Men notice the way your face shifts when you describe a dream, the way your hands move when you explain a project, the way your laughter spills out when you're immersed in what you enjoy. Those little details make an impression far stronger than any practiced line or polished presentation. Passion also reveals resilience. Men notice when you've poured time and effort into something, whether it's art, a sport, a career, or even a personal goal. They see the discipline, the commitment, the grit that it takes to pursue something over time. That dedication tells them you're not afraid of hard work, and that you have the courage to invest yourself fully. It speaks of character, of someone who doesn't just coast, but actually strives. And passion doesn't have to be grand to be noticed. It doesn't require a stage, a spotlight, or a world-changing mission. Men notice even the smallest expressions of passion. The way you light up when you talk about your garden, the joy in your voice when you describe a recipe you perfected, the focus in your eyes when you're painting, writing, or creating something. Those moments of genuine enthusiasm are unforgettable because they are real. Passion also builds connection. When you share what you love, it creates an opening for others to share what they love. Men notice how easy it is to talk to someone who is excited about life. It takes the conversation beyond surface, level chatter, and into something meaningful. It shows them who you are beneath the roles and routines. And often, those conversations become the ones they remember most. There's also a strength in passion because it shows that you value yourself enough to nurture your own interests. Men notice when you don't give up your identity to fit into someone else's world. They notice when you prioritize your dreams, even in small ways. That balance of caring for yourself while caring for others creates respect. It says you are whole on your own, and that makes your presence even more powerful. Passion is magnetic because it refuses to hide. Men notice when you allow yourself to be fully seen in what you love. They notice when you don't hold back out of fear of being judged. That authenticity leaves a mark because it shows courage. It's easy to act detached, to pretend nothing matters, to keep everything at a safe distance. But men remember the ones who care deeply because caring deeply is rare. And here's the thing passion outlasts looks. Men may admire beauty in the moment, but it's passion that stays with them long after. They remember the sound of your voice when you shared your dream, the sparkle in your eyes when you described a goal, the way your entire presence seemed to lift when you talked about something you love. Those memories endure because they're tied to emotion, not appearance. So while many women may think men are noticing the superficial, the truth is that men are noticing something far richer. They're noticing the fire in your spirit, the things that make you come alive, the uniqueness that shines through when you let your passions breathe. And that is unforgettable. Passion is proof that you're not just living, you're alive. And men notice that. They notice when your life is full, when your energy is genuine, when your heart is connected to something bigger than yourself. And in the end, that's what makes you stand out, not just to them, but to the world. There's a kind of strength that often goes unnoticed because it doesn't shout, it doesn't force, and it doesn't demand the spotlight. It's the strength of silence, and it is one of the things men notice about women far more than most women realize. Silence isn't weakness, it's composure. It's the ability to hold back when every emotion is screaming to react. It's the wisdom to know that not every moment requires words and not every battle is worth fighting. Men see this, and it leaves an impression that runs deep. When you choose silence, you're sending a message without speaking. You're saying you have control over yourself. You're showing that you don't need to explain, justify, or defend every single thought or feeling. That kind of restraint is rare in a world where so many people rush to fill the air with noise. Men notice when a woman can stay calm in the heat of conflict, when she listens before speaking, when she pauses long enough to gather her thoughts, instead of letting frustration pour out unchecked. That discipline shows strength, and it's a strength that commands respect. Silence reveals confidence. A woman who isn't afraid of silence is a woman who is comfortable with herself. She doesn't need constant validation, constant talking, or constant reassurance to feel steady. Men notice when you don't rush to fill awkward pauses, when you don't scramble to say something just to keep the conversation alive. Silence in those moments communicates security. It says you're enough without having to overperform. And that calm presence is powerful. Men also notice the wisdom in silence. It takes discernment to know when to speak and when not to. There's a time to share your opinion boldly, and there's a time to let your actions speak louder. Silence doesn't mean you're voiceless, it means you're intentional. Men notice when you don't give in to the urge to argue every point, when you can sit with someone else's anger without matching it, when you can let an insult fall flat instead of breathing life into it. That kind of wisdom is unforgettable because it shows mastery of self. There's also an undeniable dignity in silence. When someone provokes you and you refuse to engage in the chaos, it shows you know your worth. You're not lowering yourself to match negativity. Men notice when you choose peace over pettiness, when you choose quiet strength over loud reaction. Silence, in those moments, is not weakness but a refusal to waste energy on what doesn't deserve it. That kind of dignity is magnetic because it signals maturity and inner stability. Silence can also create mystery, and men notice that too. In a world where so much is overshared, where everything is posted, explained, and exposed, choosing silence creates intrigue. It shows that you don't feel the need to reveal everything about yourself all at once. Men notice when you hold back details until the right moment, when you allow curiosity to build instead of handing over every piece of yourself immediately. That sense of mystery isn't about playing games, it's about valuing your own story enough to share it with care. Another powerful aspect of silence is that it makes your words matter more. When you're not constantly speaking, the moments you do speak carry weight. Men notice when your words are thoughtful, measured, and intentional because they've seen the patience behind them. Silence sharpens speech. It ensures that when you choose to speak, what you say comes from clarity rather than impulse. And men remember the words that follow that kind of silence because they're anchored in strength. Silence also creates space for listening, and men notice that deeply. Being truly heard is rare. When you choose silence long enough to actually listen, it communicates care. Men notice when you don't interrupt, when you let them finish their thought, when you listen not just to respond but to understand. That level of presence is powerful because it builds connection without needing constant talking. There's another layer too. Silence often reveals peace. Men notice when you're not frantic, when you can sit in stillness without restlessness. That inner calm shows emotional balance, and it's deeply attractive because it signals stability. It says you don't need chaos to feel alive, and you don't need noise to feel important. You can rest in your own presence, and that presence is enough. The truth is, silence is one of the strongest forms of communication, even though it uses no words at all. Men notice it when it shows confidence, when it shows wisdom, when it shows care, and when it shows restraint. They notice when you don't get pulled into every argument, when you don't respond to every provocation, when you don't need to always have the last word. They notice when you allow silence to speak for you, and often, it speaks louder than anything else could. So, while many women worry about whether their words are clever enough, or whether they're saying the right thing, what men often notice most is how you use silence. They notice when you can stand in it without fear. They notice when you can choose it in moments where anger or insecurity would push others to lash out. They notice the strength it takes to hold back, to let go, and to rest in quiet power. And long after the conversation is over, they remember it. They remember the calm you carried, the peace you protected, and the quiet dignity of your silence. Because silence, when chosen with strength, leaves an impression that words alone never could. Sometimes the most powerful things are the ones that are least dramatic, least flashy, and least advertised. Care doesn't always look like grand gestures or loud declarations. It often shows itself in the smallest, quietest ways. And what many women may not realize is that men notice those subtle acts of care more than they admit. They remember them long after the moment passes, because those little things speak volumes about who you are and how you value them. It could be as simple as the way you remember the details. Men notice when you recall something they mentioned weeks ago in passing, their favorite snack, a tough deadline coming up, a story from their childhood. To you, it may feel like just listening, but to them, it feels like being seen. That quiet care communicates that they matter, that you're paying attention, that you don't just hear their words but hold on to them. In a world where people often feel overlooked, that kind of noticing is powerful. Men also notice care and consistency. You don't need to announce that you support them. They see in the way you show up day after day. Whether it's checking in with a simple text, asking how they're doing when no one else does, or offering encouragement without waiting for them to ask, consistency becomes its own kind of comfort. Men notice when you become a safe place where they don't have to perform, a steady presence they can rely on, and that subtle care builds trust in ways big gestures never could. There's also care and patience. Men notice when you don't rush them to open up, when you give them space to process instead of forcing conversations before they're ready. Many men grow up in environments where emotions are something to hide or push aside, so having someone who doesn't pressure them, but instead waits with gentleness leaves a deep impact. That patience communicates, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to rush. I'll still be here. And that message, though unspoken, is unforgettable. Men notice the little acts of kindness too. The way you save them the last bite without saying anything, the way you adjust the blanket when they fall asleep on the couch, the way you check if they made it home safe. These aren't things you're doing to earn praise or recognition. You do them because you care, because it's natural to you. But men notice. They may not always comment in the moment, but they hold on to the feeling it creates. Those gestures tell them more about your heart than any words could. Care also shows in the way you handle conflict. Men notice when you choose to approach disagreement with calm instead of hostility, when you try to understand instead of only defend. That doesn't mean you stay silent or avoid standing your ground, but it means you value connection more than being right. Men see that restraint, that balance, that willingness to protect the relationship even in the midst of tension. That kind of care makes them feel respected, and respect is something men crave deeply. Another subtle expression of care is encouragement, not the kind that shouts from the rooftops, but the quiet reassurance that says, "I believe in you." Men notice when you remind them of their strengths when they're doubting themselves, when you point out their progress when they only see their failures. Sometimes it's just a phrase, "You've got this." Sometimes it's the way you look at them with confidence when they're unsure. That encouragement, though simple, is like fuel. Men notice it because it lifts them in ways the world rarely does. Care shows up too in how you value the people they love. Men notice when you're kind to their friends, when you respect their family, when you take interest in the things that matter to them. It tells them you're not just caring about them in isolation. You're caring about their world. That matters because it communicates that your heart extends beyond convenience and into true consideration. Even silence at times can be care. Men notice when you don't press them for answers they don't have, when you sit with them without needing to fix everything, when you offer your presence instead of solutions. That restraint is powerful. It says, "I'm here, and that's enough." And often, it's exactly what they need. The subtle ways you show care are the ones that last the longest because they're woven into everyday life. They're not staged, they're not performed, they're genuine. Men notice because those acts make them feel valued not for what they achieve, but for who they are. And when someone makes you feel that way, you don't forget it. The truth is, anyone can make big gestures when the spotlight's on, but it takes a certain kind of depth to show care in the unnoticed moments, in the little habits, the unspoken patience, the quiet encouragement, the gentle thoughtfulness. That's the kind of care that sticks. That's the kind of care men carry with them. So while you might not think they're paying attention to the small things, they are. They notice the way you remember, the way you wait, the way you show up, the way you encourage, the way you create peace. And often, it's those subtle ways of care that speak the loudest because they prove something words never could, that your care is real, consistent, and from the heart. So here's the bottom line. Women often underestimate just how much men notice, not the surface stuff, not the things the world tells you to obsess over, but the deeper things. The way you carry yourself, the kindness in your tone, the way you handle silence, the way you treat people, the subtle acts of care you give without even thinking twice. Those are the things that stick. Those are the things men remember long after first impressions fade, because men don't just notice beauty, they notice character. They notice resilience, patience, and warmth. They notice how you make them feel, how you treat others, and how you move through the world. And those details, those little things you may not even realize you're doing, often speak louder than anything you could try to manufacture. So if you've ever doubted whether the quiet parts of you matter, let this be your reminder they do. Your laughter, your posture, your calm, your compassion, those things leave a mark. Men see them, even if they don't always say it out loud. The smartest thing you can do isn't to change who you are to be noticed, but to lean deeper into the qualities that already set you apart. Because at the end of the day, the right man isn't just looking for what turns his head, he's looking for what captures his heart. And it's these 7 things, the ones you thought went unseen, that truly do. So keep standing tall, keep smiling, keep caring in the small, quiet ways. Because the truth is, you're noticed more than you'll ever know.